My name is Clara Evans. I'm 31 years old. And 2 weeks ago, I found out my little sister was getting married. Through a Facebook post, not a call, not a text, just a picture. A glossy, sun-drenched photo of her in a lace dress, holding hands with a man I'd never met, beneath a caption that read, "Can't wait to say I do to my forever love." It was the kind of post that got hundreds of hearts, emojis, congratulations. And all I could do was stare at it. Frozen. Completely still. I read it once. Then again. And again. Like maybe I'd missed something. Some hidden message. Some clue that said, "Don't worry, Clara. Of course you're invited." But there was nothing. Just her perfect smile. And the hollow feeling blooming inside me. I should tell you a bit about us. About me and Lily. Lily's my younger sister. By 3 years. She's always been the sunshine in every room. The golden child. The one who could make our parents laugh even in the worst moments. When we were kids, I used to braid her hair every morning before school. She'd hum while I did it, off-key always. But I didn't mind. It was our little ritual. Our thing. We shared secrets, dreams, late-night snacks, and sometimes our heartbreaks. When she got her first period, she came running into my room crying. I held her, told her it was normal, and we ended up laughing through tears. I thought that bond would last forever. I thought we would, but time has a way of stretching people thin. After college, I stayed in our hometown, a small, sleepy coastal town called Ridgehaven. I became a florist. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. Flowers never yelled, never lied, never turned their back on you. Lily, on the other hand, left. She went to the city. Bright lights, fashion shows, and everything fast and loud. She'd call sometimes, send pictures of champagne brunches and rooftop sunsets, and I'd smile, pretending I didn't notice how far away she sounded. I remember the last real conversation we had. It was 3 years ago. Mom had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. We were sitting in the hospital cafeteria, paper cups of coffee in front of us, untouched. I told her I'd move back home to help. She said, "You don't have to, Clara. You've done enough." But there was something sharp in her voice. Something defensive. Like she didn't want me there. When I asked why, she said, "Because you make Mom feel like she has to choose between us." That was the moment I realized something had shifted. Lily wasn't my little sister anymore. She was someone else. Someone I couldn't reach. Years passed. Mom got better. Dad retired. And Lily, well, she got famous. Not Hollywood famous, but local famous. She started a lifestyle blog, Lily Living, all pastels, candles, and self-love quotes. Her followers adored her. She built a brand. A community, as she called it. Meanwhile, I was still arranging flowers for other people's weddings. Sometimes she'd tag me in her posts. Thanks to my talented sister for the bouquet. And I'd smile because at least she still remembered me. But as her fame grew, the calls stopped coming. The messages grew shorter, until one day, they stopped completely. So when I saw that engagement post, it didn't surprise me. Not really, but it did hurt, because no matter how old you get, no matter how strong you pretend to be, there's a part of you that still aches for your family to choose you. The night I saw the post, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight was spilling through my window, silver and sharp, slicing through the dark like truth itself. I sat on the edge of my bed, scrolling through her comments. People were saying things like, "Lily, you're glowing. You two are perfect together. When's the wedding?" And then, I saw it, her reply, June 14th, private ceremony. Can't wait. June 14th, exactly 1 month away. I dropped my phone. It hit the floor with a soft thud, like the sound of something breaking. Not glass, not metal, just me. I went to work the next morning like nothing happened, because that's what you do when you're the older sister. You hold it together. You smile, you serve customers, you trim stems and tie ribbons, even when your heart feels like it's bleeding beneath your apron. My coworker, Mara, noticed. She's blunt, the kind of person who speaks before she thinks. She took one look at me and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." I told her, "I just saw my sister's wedding announcement." Her eyes softened. "Oh, did she ask you to do the flowers?" I shook my head. "No, she didn't even invite me." There was a silence. A long, heavy one. Then Mara said, "That's cold, Clara." And I just nodded. Because yeah, it was. That week, every bouquet I made felt like a funeral arrangement. Peonies, roses, lilies. Ironic, right? Every petal reminded me of her, of us, of something beautiful that had wilted before its time. One evening, while I was closing up shop, a man came in. Tall, dark hair, kind eyes. He looked lost. "Are you still open?" he asked. "Barely," I said, half smiling. He told me his name was Ethan, and he needed flowers for his sister's birthday. I helped him pick some out. Yellow tulips, her favorite. We talked while I wrapped them. Something about him felt easy, safe. Like an old song I'd forgotten the lyrics to. Before he left, he said, "You've got a good heart, you know. I can tell." And for a moment, I almost believed him. Then he was gone, and I was alone again, just me, the flowers, and the silence. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine, scrolling through Lily's page again. She'd posted a new photo, a close-up of her engagement ring. Caption, "Forever starts soon." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then something inside me cracked. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was something quieter, deeper, like the faint tremor before an earthquake. I whispered into the empty room, "Why didn't you want me there, Lily?" And the silence answered back, "Because she didn't need you." The next morning, I woke up with a decision. I didn't know why or how, but I knew I couldn't just ignore it. So I opened my laptop and searched, "How to send wedding flowers anonymously." It sounds crazy, doesn't it? Sending flowers to a wedding you're not invited to. But maybe it was my way of saying goodbye. Or maybe it was the first spark of something else. Something darker. Something waiting. As I clicked through websites, comparing prices and designs, I found myself imagining her face. The moment she'd see them, would she know they were from me? Would she feel guilt? Or pride I didn't know? But I knew one thing. I wanted her to remember me, even if it was just through a single bloom. I leaned back, looking at the empty vase on my table. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like crying. I felt something else. A calm kind of anger. The kind that doesn't scream. It whispers. And it waits. That was the night it began. The quiet unraveling. The beginning of my story and the end of hers. The morning after I searched for anonymous wedding flowers, I woke up to sunlight spilling through my window, warm and golden. It should have felt comforting. But instead it felt intrusive. Like even the sun was prying into the parts of me I was trying to keep hidden. I made coffee, black and bitter. My hands trembled as I held the cup. I hadn't slept much. My mind kept replaying her face, her smile, the caption. That stupid caption. "Forever starts soon." It was like her happiness was a mirror reflecting everything I didn't have. Love, family, belonging. And the more I tried to swallow it, the sharper it got. That day, I called Mom. We hadn't talked in weeks, not because we fought, but because we'd learned how to walk around each other's silences. When she answered, her voice was soft, distant. "Clara? Sweetheart, it's early. Is everything okay?" I hesitated, then said, "Did you know about Lily's wedding?" There was a pause on the other end, a long, guilty kind of silence that said everything before she spoke. "Oh, Clara, I was going to tell you. Was going to?" I repeated. My voice cracked on the last word. "She said she wanted to keep it small," Mom said quickly. "Just family and close friends." "I am family. I know," she said quietly. "But it's her day. She doesn't want any what? Any reminders that she actually has a sister?" The words came out sharper than I intended. And when she didn't answer, I realized I'd hit something raw. We didn't talk much after that. She tried to change the subject, asked if business was good, if I was eating properly. but every word she spoke felt like sandpaper. Before we hung up, she whispered, "She loves you, Clara. She just handles things differently." I almost laughed. Because love doesn't look like exclusion. Love doesn't hide behind excuses. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time. The silence in my apartment felt heavy, thick, like it was pressing against my chest, trying to crush whatever softness I had left. Later that week, I got an invitation in the mail. Not from Lily, from Mom and Dad. It wasn't for the wedding, it was for the engagement party. A small gathering at the family house to celebrate Lily and Thomas. The handwriting was Mom's. The ink smudged a little, as if she'd written it through tears. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it, pretending I never saw it. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, got the better of me. So I went. The house looked the same as it always did. White picket fence, overgrown hydrangeas, that creaky porch step that always made Dad curse. But when I walked inside, it didn't feel like home anymore. Laughter echoed from the living room, bright, effortless, familiar voices that used to include me. When I stepped through the doorway, all eyes turned. A second of silence, then Mom's voice, forced and bright. "Clara, you made it!" Lily was standing near the fireplace, a champagne glass in her hand. She froze when she saw me. Her smile faltered for just a heartbeat, then returned, practiced and perfect. "Clara," she said, crossing the room, "I didn't think you'd come." "Your invitation got lost in the mail," I said. The room went quiet again. Her fiancé, Thomas, extended a polite hand. "Hi, I'm Tom. I've heard a lot about you." "Really?" I asked. "Funny, I can't say the same." The tension cracked like ice. Mom jumped in to smooth it over, offering me a drink, steering the conversation toward safer ground. But I saw the way Lily's eyes darted toward me, defensive, wary, like I was something fragile she didn't want to deal with. As the night went on, people shared stories about how perfect Lily and Thomas were, how lucky they were to have found each other, how beautiful their future looked. I smiled when expected, nodded when necessary. But inside, every word felt like another needle under my skin. At one point, I slipped outside to breathe. The air was cold, sharp with the scent of the sea. I leaned against the porch railing, staring at the dark horizon. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. It was Lily. She stood there for a moment, watching me, then said, "You didn't have to come." "Neither did you," I replied. "Funny how that works," she sighed. "Clara, please." "Not tonight," I turned to face her. "Then when? When do I get to ask why I wasn't invited to my own sister's wedding?" Her expression hardened. "It's complicated." "No," I said. "It's not. You just didn't want me there." She looked away. "I didn't want drama." "You and Mom, me and Mom what?" She hesitated, then whispered, "You've always needed to be the one taking care of everything. The responsible one. The perfect one. I wanted a day that was just about me." Her words hit harder than I expected, because deep down, maybe she wasn't wrong. Maybe I had spent my whole life trying to be the glue that held everything together. And maybe, somewhere along the line, I'd made her feel like she couldn't breathe. But that didn't justify this. "I never wanted to take anything from you," I said. "I just wanted to be there." She didn't answer. She just turned and went back inside, leaving me on the porch, alone with the sound of waves crashing in the distance. That night, I drove home in silence. No music, no thoughts, just the hum of the road and the ache in my chest. When I got back, I sat in my car for a long time before going inside. The headlights cast pale light across the flower shop sign, Evans Floral Boutique. The name looked so small, so insignificant. I thought about the flowers I'd been preparing to send to her wedding. The white lilies, the blush roses. I thought about how fragile they were, beautiful for a moment, and then gone. Just like us. A week later, Mom came by the shop. She brought a box of old photo albums. Said she was cleaning out the attic, but I knew she was looking for an excuse to talk. We sat on the floor of the back room, flipping through pages. There we were, two little girls in matching dresses, covered in sand from summer days at the beach. Our arms around each other, smiles so wide they barely fit the frame. Mom touched one of the photos, her fingers trembling slightly. "You two used to be inseparable," she whispered. "We were," I said. Then softer, "What happened, Mom?" She hesitated, then said something that stuck with me long after she left. "Love doesn't disappear, Clara. But sometimes pride buries it so deep. You forget where you put it." After she left, I sat there staring at that photo for hours. The edges were worn, the colors fading, but the memory was still alive. It made me wonder, when did love turn into resentment? When did family become competition? I didn't have answers, just the heavy, suffocating ache of what used to be. But that night, something shifted. Because for the first time, I wasn't just sad. I was angry. Not the kind of anger that explodes, but the kind that coils, tight and patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. And underneath it all, there was clarity. If Lily wanted her perfect little world untouched, then fine. She could have it, but I'd make sure she'd never forget what it cost. The days leading up to Lily's wedding felt like watching a storm form on the horizon. You can see it coming. You know it's going to hit, but you still stand there waiting and pretending you can stop it. I threw myself into work. The shop was busy that month, full of brides, anniversaries, and people in love. It was cruel, really. Every bouquet I made was a reminder of what I wasn't invited to. Every congratulations card I wrote felt like a small betrayal to myself. Mara kept asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine. But the truth is, I was unraveling quietly, petal by petal, stem by stem. One morning, I got an email from a wedding planner named Samantha Hale. She was coordinating flowers for a high-profile client in the city, and she wanted to collaborate. Normally, I'd be thrilled. But when I read the client's name, my heart stopped. Lily Evans and Thomas Carter. I reread it, blinking. No, it couldn't be, but it was my sister, the one who didn't even invite me to her wedding, was now hiring me through a third party to provide her flowers, anonymously. Sat there staring at the screen. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe Samantha had the wrong Evans, but the address was right. The date matched. The venue was listed, the Glasswood Estate, 2 hours away. It was Lily's wedding, and she hadn't even had the decency to call me herself. For a long moment, I just sat there frozen between laughter and disbelief. The irony was so sharp it almost made me dizzy. My sister didn't want me there, but she wanted my flowers. I typed a reply with trembling fingers. "Thank you for reaching out." I'd be happy to take the order. I added every professional courtesy I could think of. Then hit send. The second I did, something in me snapped. Not like a branch breaking, but like a lock opening. If this was the role she wanted me to play, the invisible sister, the quiet artisan who decorates her perfect day, then fine. I'd play it, but not the way she expected. That evening, I went to Mom's house. She was in the kitchen, stirring soup on the stove. When she saw me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I heard you're doing the flowers," she said softly. I nodded. She didn't tell me. The planner did. Mom sighed. "You don't have to, Clara." "I know," I said. "But I want to." That was a lie. I didn't want to, but something inside me needed to. Mom didn't press. She just said, "Don't make this harder on yourself." I almost told her it already was. But instead, I just said, "I'll handle it." And for the first time, I think she saw something in me that scared her. Not grief. Not sadness, but determination. The next few days were a blur of orders, deliveries, and sleepless nights. I started designing the arrangements. Pale pink roses, soft ivory lilies, silver eucalyptus. Classic, elegant, exactly the kind of thing Lily would want. But I also added something she wouldn't notice. A subtle touch. In each bouquet, I placed one small flower that didn't belong. A black dahlia. It's a striking bloom, dark, beautiful, and symbolic. In the language of flowers, it means betrayal. A few nights before the wedding, I got a call from Mara. "Clara, you've been working nonstop," she said. "When's the last time you ate something that wasn't caffeine or regret?" I laughed, tired. "I'll rest after the wedding." "You mean her wedding?" I didn't answer. There was a long silence. Then she said, "You're not just sending flowers, are you?" Her words caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "You've got that look," she said. "The one people get when they're planning something they can't come back from." I wanted to tell her she was wrong. But maybe she wasn't, because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about forgiveness. It was about something deeper, something I couldn't name yet. 2 days before the wedding, I got another email from Samantha. She said Lily wanted to add one last-minute order, a private bouquet for her bridal dressing room. Wasn't part of the main decor, it was something just for her. A personal arrangement, reading. That line made my stomach twist. Personal. That word felt like a dare, so I accepted. The night before the wedding, I worked alone in the shop. Outside, rain tapped against the windows, soft and steady. Inside, the air smelled of roses and wet earth. I packed the truck carefully, checking every ribbon, every vase. And then I made Lily's private bouquet. It was beautiful, breathtaking even. White peonies, cream roses, and delicate baby's breath. But at its center, I placed a single black dahlia, hidden, buried just deep enough that she wouldn't notice until she looked closely. A secret message. From one sister to another. When I finished, I sat back and stared at it. My hands were shaking. Not from exhaustion, but from something else. Something hot, electric, alive. It wasn't hate. It wasn't love. It was both. It was everything. The next morning, I drove to the Glasswood estate. The sky was pale blue, clouds stretched thin like smoke. The venue was a mansion surrounded by manicured gardens, the kind of place where everything looked perfect from the outside. I parked near the loading area, handed off the boxes to the staff, and kept my head down. No one recognized me. No one looked twice. When I carried the last crate in, I saw her. Through the open door of her dressing suite. Lily. She was sitting in front of a mirror, surrounded by bridesmaids, her hair pinned up with pearls. She looked radiant, effortless, like the kind of person who'd never broken anyone's heart. I froze. I wanted to turn away, but I couldn't. Then she saw me, our eyes met in the mirror. Just for a second. Her smile faltered, confusion flickering across her face. Then recognition, then, "Guilt, Clara?" she said. Her voice was small, surprised, wounded even. "I'm just dropping off the flowers," I said. "You didn't have to." "I know." We stared at each other. There were 1,000 things I wanted to say. 1,000 things I wanted her to feel. But all I said was, "They're beautiful. You'll love them." And then I left. In the hallway, my chest ached. Not from pain, but from release. Like I'd finally let go of something I'd been holding too long. Outside, the air was cold and sweet. I loaded the empty boxes back into the truck. Before driving away, I looked back at the estate one last time. It stood there, shining and perfect, surrounded by flowers that would wilt before morning. And I whispered, "Enjoy your day, Lily." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining her walking down the aisle, holding the bouquet. I pictured her catching sight of that one hidden flower, the black dahlia, and wondering why it was there. Wondering if I meant something by it. She'd never know for sure. That was the beauty of it. Revenge doesn't always need to scream. Sometimes it just needs to whisper. But around midnight, I got a message from an unknown number. It said, "I saw the flower." I stared at the screen. No name, no context. Just those 4 words. My hands went cold. Then another message came through. "We need to talk." It was her. And suddenly I realized the storm hadn't passed. It was just beginning. A week after that conversation, I thought it was over. The anger, the ache, the constant buzzing in my chest, all of it had finally quieted. But peace doesn't last when you've been living inside pain for too long. Silence starts to sound like guilt. I went back to work, back to the rhythm of the shop, the soft hum of the cooler, the snip of scissors through stems, the whisper of ribbon against paper. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt it because people talk. And small towns talk louder. Within days, whispers began to drift through the air like pollen. About Lily, about the wedding, about something that went wrong. It started with a customer, an older woman who came in every Friday for daisies. She leaned over the counter and said, "Did you hear about the Carter wedding?" "Such a shame," my pulse stuttered. "What do you mean?" She lowered her voice. "They say the groom's family found out about his little secret right before the ceremony. The whole thing almost didn't happen." I froze. "What secret?" She shrugged. "Something about money. Fraud, maybe. You know how rumors spread." She smiled, blissfully unaware of the storm she'd just dropped at my feet, and walked out humming. I stood there for a long time, heart pounding until Mara came out from the back. "You okay?" I nodded. But inside, I was spiraling. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched Thomas Carter's name. It didn't take long to find what I wasn't supposed to, a blog post, anonymous, posted just 2 days before the wedding, exposing Thomas's company for falsifying investment records. There were screenshots, emails, everything, enough to ruin a reputation. The post had gone viral in the local community. By now, everyone must have seen it, including Lily, and at the bottom of the article, I saw it. A single sentence. Sources close to the family confirm the bride was unaware. Sources close to the family. Someone had talked. Someone who knew. I didn't write that article. I didn't leak anything. But I knew who did. Because 2 nights before the wedding, when I was finishing the bouquets, Mara had been in the shop. She'd seen the client details. She'd heard my story. She'd seen my anger, and she'd said, half joking, "If I were you, I'd warn her. She's marrying a time bomb." At the time, I thought she was just venting for me. But maybe she wasn't joking. Maybe she did it. Maybe she thought she was helping me get revenge. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Lily. Her voice was quiet, brittle. "Did you do it?" "No," I said immediately. But she didn't believe me. "I know you hated him," she said. "You wanted to embarrass me." "I didn't," I said again. "I didn't need to." There was silence. Then she whispered, "Everything's falling apart." And for the first time, I heard fear in her voice. Real fear. She hung up before I could say anything else. The following days blurred. The story spread fast. Thomas's company went under investigation. Their honeymoon was canceled. Her sponsors started dropping her brand, and through it all, I stayed quiet. People came into my shop talking about her downfall, her mistakes, her fake online life. They didn't know she was my sister, and I didn't correct them because for once it wasn't my job to fix things. Still, the guilt lingered. It pressed on me every night like a shadow, not because I caused it, but because I didn't stop it. I told myself I wasn't responsible for Mara's actions or for Lily's choices. But deep down, I knew I'd planted the seed. The black dahlia, the quiet symbol of betrayal. And it had bloomed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I locked up the shop and walked to the pier. The sea was calm, the same gray-blue mirror it had always been. I watched the waves and thought about us. About how 2 sisters could love each other so fiercely and still destroy everything between them. Maybe revenge isn't about justice. Maybe it's just grief that's forgotten how to cry. I took a single flower from my pocket, another black dahlia, and let it fall into the water. It floated for a moment, then drifted away, carried by the tide. That was my goodbye. Not to her, but to the part of me that still needed her to hurt the way I had. A few days later, Lily sent one last message. No greeting. No explanation, just 2 words. I understand. I stared at it for a long time. And then I deleted it, because maybe she did, or maybe she didn't. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. For the first time in years, I woke up without checking her page. Without wondering what she thought of me. Without comparing our lives. The silence didn't scare me anymore. It soothed me. And somewhere between all the endings and the wreckage, I realized something I never had before. I didn't need revenge. I just needed peace. It's been 3 months since the wedding. 3 months since the story broke, since Lily disappeared from the internet, since everything quieted again. Ridgehaven feels different now. Or maybe it's just me. The shop is still small, still smells like lavender and fresh-cut roses. But there's something peaceful in the routine now. Trimming stems, misting leaves, tying ribbons. Every sound feels softer. Every silence feels earned. Sometimes customers ask if I have family in town. I smile and say, not really. And for once, it doesn't sting to say it. A few weeks ago, I got a letter. Real paper, handwritten. The return address was Lily's. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity, or forgiveness, won out. Inside was a single page. Clara, you were right. I built a life out of mirrors, and I spent years terrified of the cracks. You were the only person who saw through them, and I punished you for it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope one day when you look at the flowers you make, you'll think of me without pain. Love always, a Lily. I read it once. Then again, and again. And for the first time since everything happened, I didn't cry. Because it didn't feel like an apology. It felt like an ending. And endings can be beautiful too, I didn't write back. Some stories don't need sequels. They just need to fade quietly, like petals falling off a stem. But I did something else. I renamed my shop. It's not Evan's Floral Boutique anymore. It's Dahlia and Vine. People love the name. They think it sounds poetic, elegant. No one knows the meaning behind it. That it was born from betrayal, but grew into freedom. And maybe that's the point. Growth doesn't always come from love. Sometimes it blooms from pain. Every morning I open the door to the shop and breathe in the scent of life beginning again. I think of the girl I used to be, the one waiting for someone else to choose her. She's gone now, and in her place stands someone stronger, someone who doesn't need permission to exist. I don't hate Lily anymore. Hate is heavy, and I've carried enough weight for both of us. I hope she's healing too, somewhere far from the noise, far from the image she built. Because despite everything, a part of me will always love her. She was my sister, my shadow, my mirror. And I think, in her own way, she finally saw me. Sometimes, when I close the shop at night, I leave a single black dahlia in the window. It's not for revenge anymore. It's a reminder that even the darkest things can be beautiful, that even pain can bloom. Customers ask about it sometimes. They say it's striking. What does it mean? I just smile and say, it means I survived. Tonight, the rain is falling softly outside. The lights in the shop glow warm against the glass. I pour a cup of tea and sit by the window, watching droplets race each other down the pane. It's quiet, peaceful, the kind of peace I never thought I'd find. I think about how revenge began as a spark in my chest and ended as something gentler. Forgiveness, maybe, or just release. Either way, it's mine. There's a quote I once read, I can't remember where. It said, "Flowers grow back even after the hardest winter," and maybe that's what I am now. Something that grew back. Not the same, but still alive. Sometimes when I lock the door and walk home, I look up at the stars and whisper, thank you. Not to Lily, not to the past, but to the pain itself, because without it, I never would have bloomed. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's peace. It's learning to let go and realizing that survival is its own kind of justice. Because in the end, flowers always bloom again. If this story moved you, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in quiet strength and second chances. Your support helps more stories like this bloom.